front of our eyes.
In the Pacific Northwest, a scientist wonders whether sonar is injuring killer whales and finds himself at odds with the U.S. Navy.
The Navy needs sonar to detect underwater submarines. If you can't see a submarine coming, you can't protect American cities against a submarine coming close to shore.
Easy, man. Easy.
While in Florida, an army of volunteers confronts the terrible mystery of strandings, racing against time and the elements to save a group of whales and its orphaned calf. In the chill waters of the Arctic, scientists risk life and limb to study the utterly mysterious bowhead whale. And in the South Pacific, the son of a whaler fights to protect a humpback's paradise. A new chapter is being written in the ancient text of whales and humans, as a new generation pushes back the frontiers of knowledge to save these enchanting and fantastic beings. Puget Sound in Washington State, a place of serene beauty, and now the unlikely epicenter of a scientific battle. Here, marine biologist Ken Balcom has been observing the region's killer whales, or orcas, for nearly 3 decades. Perhaps the longest continuous study of these grand creatures.
I've known for much of their life, the younger ones for all of their life. They're simply magnificent. There's K40, female has been here ever since the study began. This K21, a young male born since we began.
Ken's work never stops. Perched above Puget Sound, his front porch serves as a spectacular vantage point from which to observe the 80-some orcas in his study group as they swim by.
K27, L22.
Years ago, Ken was among a handful of scientists who revolutionized the study of whales by implementing photo identification techniques.
They seem to be waiting.
Today, he and his volunteers photograph and videotape the whales' movements, while an underwater microphone records their distinctive calls.
We have a hydrophone out by the north of the reef out there, and then we just pipe it in through the speakers, and now we can record it on the video.
Every day here is pretty much the same. It's wake up in the morning and look for whales.
Every day, that is, except May 5th, 2003, a day that would change his life and spark a personal crusade to protect a pod of whales he considers family. It is a family he has come to know through thousands of hours of videotape and some 100,000 photographs taken over the course of nearly 30 years.
So this is that frame right there?
Yeah, it's that frame right there.
When we started out this study, we just had a whole bunch of photographs of dorsal fins and saddle patterns. We had a lot of whales. We didn't know the relationship of any of them. But as we continued the study, we came over here in time, and we could track the genealogy. As a mother had a baby, we could see its relationship with the mother. She maybe had sisters and brothers that traveled with the baby, and the baby may have had a baby itself, another generation.
Ken documented that his whales live in 3 separate pods. And like like human families, these whales often stay together for life, forming extended groups. Each of Ken's pods is led by the oldest females. One of J pod's leaders is Granny, who may be more than 90 years old.
They're part of the family. That's the way I feel about these whales. They're not pets, but they're part of the family. Or maybe I'm part of their family.
Each fall, Ken says goodbye to the whales as they head out to the open sea, perhaps following the salmon. In the spring, when the fish return to spawn, the whales reappear. But lately, too many of the whales have gone missing, whales that should be thriving.
We see all these little tombstones, and any of these whales that die in their youth or in their prime years are likely to have died from some suspicious cause. It's just not normal to have such a massive investment of a mother into an offspring who's a top predator in this whole ecosystem and just have them die young.
What could be happening to the whales? Ken knew that pollutants and declining salmon stocks were taking their toll, but he suspected something else was at work as well.
See who that is out by that little boat?
Then came the shock of May 5th, 2003, in an eruption of sound.
Our local J-pod, southern resident whales, came right in front of the house, along with the destroyer hanging with its sonar. It was a remarkable sort of laboratory kind of experiment that I couldn't have designed in advance.
Within minutes, Ken observed Dahl's porpoises racing from the area. Then a group of killer whales headed toward shore, as if they intended to strand. Ken could see they were members of J-pod, Granny's clan.
I try not to get angry about things, but this just sort of welled up from my stomach to my throat, and I just wanted to shout. This was occurring in a known marine mammal habitat where we know these whales are already endangered.
A former Navy officer himself, Ken was acutely aware that the lives of thousands of men and women depend on sonar every day. But he also knew from first-hand experience that sonar can be harmful to some whales. Ken desperately tried to get word to the ship, as did others who were near the strait that day. About 4 hours after the exercise began, the message got through, and the Navy turned its sonar off. But Ken remained concerned about the long-term consequences.
We'll be back here pretty quick.
He would watch the whales carefully for the next few weeks, monitoring them for any change in their behavior.
And J2 showed up from the north, and then they all kind of broke up.
In the Florida Keys, a different kind of crisis unfolds. More than 24 whales have stranded in shallow water. They are pilot whales, among the most social of their kind, and the most notorious for this baffling and apparently suicidal behavior. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is on the scene, directing scores of volunteers. NOAA marine biologist Laura Engelby is in charge, looking for clues to why this happened.
I can see a lot of them. One real popular theory is that there might be a lead animal or one of the members of the group that's sick and ends up closer to shore. Since pilot whales are very cohesive, very gregarious, they're very tight-knit groups, they end up following that one individual animal. They get in shallow water, they become disoriented, the tide goes out, and they're left stranded on the flats like we saw when we got here.
The whales are so weak, the volunteers have to hold them up to keep them from drowning. They are suffering from severe